The morning sun shone bright over New Busan Colony. 8-year-old Hana pressed her face against the transport window, watching the strange blue crystals that grew from the planet's surface. They looked like frozen lightning reaching up toward the sky. "Look at that one," shouted 10-year-old June from across the aisle. He pointed at a crystal formation that was taller than their school building. "It's huge." 9-year-old Mira sat next to Hana, drawing pictures of the crystals in her notebook. She was always drawing something. Her mother was a scientist who studied alien languages, and Mira wanted to be just like her when she grew up. Teacher Kyung-soo smiled as he watched his students. 23 children from New Busan Elementary were on this field trip to study the crystal formations. The crystals were special because they stored energy from the planet's 3 suns. Scientists came from all over human space to study them. "Remember, children," Kyung-soo said as their transport landed near the largest crystal field, "stay close to me. These crystals can be dangerous if you touch them wrong. They store a lot of energy." The children climbed out of the transport, their eyes wide with wonder. The crystal field stretched as far as they could see. Some crystals were small like flowers. Others were giant towers that hummed with power. The air itself seemed to shimmer around them. Hana held Mira's hand as they walked. June stayed close to his best friend Bin, who was taking pictures with his father's camera. The children laughed and pointed at different crystals, asking questions faster than their teacher could answer. "Why are they blue?" asked a girl named So Young. "The minerals in the planet's crust make them that color," Kyung-soo explained. "Each planet has different colored crystals. On Kepler 7, they're red. On Proxima b, they're green." They walked deeper into the crystal field. Kyung-soo felt proud watching his students learn. This was why he became a teacher. Seeing children discover new things made all the hard work worth it. High above them, something moved in the clouds. Rex watched the small group through his ship's viewer. The Vorthak commander smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. His species looked like a cross between a lizard and a shark, with gray skin covered in scales and eyes that saw in many colors. "Perfect," he growled to his crew. "Small humans, young ones. They will bring good prices at the flesh markets." The Vorthak were raiders who traveled between star systems, taking what they wanted. They sold slaves to the highest bidder. To them, all other species were just meat to be traded. "Should we take the adult too?" asked his second-in-command, Krex. "No," Frex said. "Adults fight too much. Children are easier. Leave the adult alive to tell others what happened. Fear spreads faster than truth." The Vorthak ship dropped through the clouds like a falling stone. It was black and ugly, covered in spikes and weapons. The ship's engines made a sound like screaming metal. Kyung-soo saw the shadow first. He looked up and felt his blood turn cold. Every human knew what Vorthak ships looked like. They appeared in nightmares and warning videos. "Children," he shouted, "run! Get to the transport!" But it was too late. The Vorthak ship landed with a crash that shook the ground. Doors opened and aliens poured out. They moved fast on 6 legs, carrying weapons that sparked with electricity. The children screamed and ran in different directions. Some hid behind crystals. Others tried to reach the transport. Kyung-soo grabbed the emergency beacon from his belt and pressed the button. The signal would reach the nearest human patrol ship. Hana pulled Mira behind a large crystal, both girls shaking with fear. They could hear the other children crying and shouting. The sound of alien voices filled the air, speaking in harsh words they didn't understand. June tried to reach his friend Bin, but a Vorthak grabbed him with a clawed hand. The alien was twice as tall as the boy and smelled like rotting meat. June kicked and punched, but the alien just laughed. "This one has spirit," the alien said in broken human language. "Will be worth much." Kyung-soo ran toward his students, but Vrex stepped in his way. The commander held a weapon that hummed with deadly energy. "Stay back, human," Vrex growled. "Your young ones belong to us now." "Please," Kyung-soo begged. "They're just children. Take me instead." Vrex hit him with the weapon's handle. Kyung-soo fell to the ground, his head bleeding. Pain shot through his skull like fire. The Vorthak worked quickly. They had done this many times before. Within minutes, they had captured all 23 children. The aliens used nets made of energy that the children couldn't break. Hana reached through her net toward Mira, who was crying in the net next to her. "It's okay," Hana whispered, even though she was scared too. "Someone will come for us." Mira nodded, wiping tears from her face. "My mom will find us. She's really smart." June was in a net with 5 other boys. He looked around the crystal field, trying to remember everything he could. His father had been a soldier before becoming a farmer. He always told June to stay alert and remember details. The Vorthak loaded the children into their ship. The inside was dark and smelled terrible. Cages lined the walls, and the children could hear other prisoners crying in languages they didn't recognize. Rex walked among the cages, looking at his new prizes. "Fine specimens," he said to Krex. "The flesh markets will pay well for young humans. They are rare and valuable." "What about the human military?" Krex asked. "They might come looking." Rex laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "By the time they find us, these little ones will be sold and scattered across the galaxy. Humans are soft. They will cry and make threats, but they cannot catch the wind." Outside the ship, Kyung-soo struggled to his feet. Blood ran down his face, but he was alive. He pressed his emergency beacon again and again, sending the signal into space. "Help us," he whispered into the beacon. They took the children. They took them all. The Vorthak ship lifted off, its engines roaring. It climbed through the atmosphere and disappeared into the black of space, carrying 23 human children away from everything they had ever known. Kyung-soo fell to his knees in the crystal field. The beautiful formations around him now seemed cold and empty. He kept pressing the beacon, praying that someone would hear. In space, Captain Lee was drinking coffee on the bridge of his patrol ship, the Indomitable. He was a calm man who had served in the human fleet for 15 years. Nothing surprised him anymore. Then the emergency signal came through. "Captain," said his communications officer, Nari. Her voice was tight with worry. "We're getting a distress call from New Busan Colony." It's a code red." Captain Lee set down his coffee cup. Code red meant civilians in immediate danger. "Put it through." Kyung-soo's voice filled the bridge, broken and desperate. "This is Teacher Kyung-soo from New Busan Elementary. Vorthak raiders have taken my students. 23 children. They're gone. Please, someone help them." The bridge went silent. Every person stopped what they were doing. Captain Lee felt something cold settle in his chest. In all his years of service, he had never heard a code red involving children. The thought made his hands shake with anger. "Nari," he said, his voice deadly quiet. "Contact Fleet Command. Tell them we have a child abduction situation. Authorization for full response." "Yes, sir," Nari said. She had children of her own back on Earth. The thought of them being taken made her sick. "Tay," Captain Lee called to his engineer. "How fast can you get us to maximum speed?" "Give me 5 minutes, Captain," Tay replied. "But why are we rushing for raiders?" "The children are probably already—" "Don't say it," Captain Lee cut him off. "Don't even think it. Those children are alive, and we're going to bring them home." As the Indomitable changed course toward New Busan, Captain Lee stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human children were scared and alone. The Vorthak had made a mistake bigger than they could possibly understand. They had touched humanity's most precious treasure. Now they would learn why that was the worst mistake they could ever make. Captain Lee stood in front of the communication screen on his ship's bridge. The face looking back at him belonged to Admiral Soonja, the highest-ranking officer in the human fleet. She was known for being tough but fair. Today, her expression was harder than steel. "Tell me exactly what happened, Captain," she said. Captain Lee repeated everything he knew. 23 children taken by Vorthak raiders from New Busan Colony. The teacher left alive but injured. The emergency beacon still sending out its desperate cry for help. Admiral Soonja was quiet for a long moment. Behind her, Captain Lee could see other officers moving quickly around the Fleet Command Center. Red lights flashed on every wall. "Captain Lee," the Admiral said finally, "I am authorizing Protocol 7. Captain Lee felt his breath catch. Protocol 7 had never been used before. It was created for only one situation: crimes against human children. "Understood, Admiral," he said. "What are my orders?" "Find those children. Bring them home alive. Everything else is secondary." Admiral Soonja paused. "Captain, I'm sending you every available ship in the sector. You will have full military support." "How many ships, Admiral?" "All of them." The communication ended. Captain Lee turned to his crew. Nari was already working at her station, sending messages across human space. Tay was pushing the engines harder than they had ever been pushed before. "Sir?" Nari said, looking up from her screen. "I'm getting responses from human ships across the sector. They're all changing course to join us. How many so far?" 37 ships, sir. More coming every minute, Captain Lee nodded. The word was spreading. Soon, every human in the galaxy would know what had happened. The Vorthak had no idea what they had started. On the Vorthak ship, Commander Vrex sat in his command chair, feeling pleased with himself. The human children were locked in cages in the lower decks. They had stopped crying and were now just sitting quietly, which was better for everyone. His communications officer, Krex, looked up from his station. Commander, I'm picking up some strange signals. What kind of signals? Human military communications. Lots of them. More than I've ever seen before. Vrex wasn't worried. The Vorthak had been raiding for hundreds of years. They knew how to stay ahead of any military force. Human ships were slow and predictable. How many human ships? Vrex asked. I count 43 so far, Commander. And more joining every hour. This made Vrex frown. 43 ships was a lot for a simple raid response. Usually the humans sent 1 or 2 ships to investigate. They filed reports and made threats, but they never really tried to stop the Vorthak. What are they saying in these communications? Krex listened for a moment, then his face went pale. Vorthak's skin was gray, but fear made it turn almost white. Commander? Krex said slowly. They're all saying the same thing. Return the children unharmed or face extinction. Vrex laughed, but it sounded forced. Empty threats. Humans are weak. They care too much about rules and laws to do real damage. But deep down, something cold was growing in Vrex's stomach. In all his years of raiding, he had never heard humans talk like this before. Contact War Chief Thok, Vrex ordered. Tell him about our successful raid. He will want to hear the good news. On the Vorthak homeworld, War Chief Thok received Vrex's message with great pleasure. Thok was the leader of all Vorthak raiders, a massive alien covered in battle scars. He had been raiding for longer than most species had been traveling in space. Excellent work, Vrex, Thok growled into the communicator. Human children will bring high prices. The flesh markets have been asking for young humans for years. Yes, War Chief. We captured 23 of them, all healthy and undamaged. Thok was about to end the communication when his own intelligence officer approached. The smaller Vorthak looked nervous, which was unusual. Vorthak were not easily scared. War Chief, the intelligence officer said, we're detecting massive human fleet movements. Ships from every human colony are heading toward Vrex's location. Thok's good mood disappeared. How many ships? Over 200 so far, War Chief. And the number keeps growing. Thok stared at the communication screen. 200 ships was more than the humans had ever sent after raiders before. It was more ships than most species had in their entire fleet, Vrex, Thok said slowly. Tell me again what you took from this colony. 23 young humans, War Chief. Nothing else. You took nothing else? No weapons? No technology? No military secrets? No, War Chief. Just the children. Thok felt something he had not felt in many years, fear. The humans were sending their entire fleet after children. Not soldiers. Not weapons, children, Vrex, Thok said. Get those children to the slave markets immediately. Sell them fast and disappear. Something is wrong here. War Chief, you sound worried. They are only humans. No, Vrex. Something has changed. Humans don't send 200 ships for anything. Sell those children now. The communication ended. Thok sat in his command chair, thinking hard. He had fought humans before. They were tough fighters, but they followed rules. They tried to capture raiders alive. They offered mercy to enemies who surrendered, but this felt different. The humans weren't sending police ships or patrol vessels. They were sending warships, battle cruisers, destroyers, ships designed for one purpose, to kill. Meanwhile, on a research station near the edge of human space, Dr. Baum was working late in her laboratory. She studied alien species and how they communicated. Her work helped humans understand their neighbors in the galaxy. A communication came through on the emergency channel. Dr. Baum almost ignored it, but something made her answer. The face on the screen belonged to Keth Elder Yith, a member of the peaceful Kethmori species. The Kethmori looked like tall, thin birds with silver feathers. They were known for being wise and calm. Yith looked neither wise nor calm right now. He looked terrified. Dr. Baum, Yith said, his voice shaking. Please, you must help us understand what is happening. What do you mean, Elder Yith? The humans. They are broadcasting messages across all frequencies. Every species in this sector has heard them. We are all afraid, Dr. Baum frowned. What kind of messages? They say return our children or face extinction. They repeat it over and over in every language. Dr. Baum, what children? What has happened? Dr. Baum quickly accessed the human military communications network. What she saw made her blood run cold. Hundreds of ships were moving with one purpose. Emergency protocols were active across all human colonies. Military bases were going to full alert, Elder Yith, Dr. Baum said slowly. Someone has taken human children. That's the only thing that would cause this kind of response. Taken children? But surely your people will negotiate. Offer payment? Trade for their return? Dr. Baum shook her head. You don't understand, Elder Yith. Humans don't negotiate when children are involved. We don't trade. We don't bargain. Then what do? We hunt. And we don't stop hunting until our children are home safe. Elder Yith was quiet for a long moment. How many ships are coming? Dr. Baum checked her screen again. The number kept growing. Right now? Over 300 ships. But that number will keep rising until every human ship in the galaxy is involved. All for 23 children? Elder Yith, you still don't understand. It's not about the number. One human child or 1,000, the response would be the same. We protect our young with everything we have. And if the children are harmed? Dr. Baum was quiet for a moment. She thought about her own daughter, safe at home on Earth. She thought about what she would do if someone took her child. Then whoever took them will learn why humans are considered the most dangerous species in the galaxy when we're angry. Elder Yith's feathers ruffled with fear. We must warn the other species. They need to know what is coming. What do you mean? The Vorthak took the children. They are heading toward the Crix Nebula, where they sell slaves. But there are many innocent species along that route. If the humans are truly sending their entire fleet, Dr. Baum understood. When hundreds of human warships moved together, other species would panic. They might think it was an invasion. They might fight back. I'll contact Human Command, Dr. Baum said. I'll make sure they know which species are innocent. Thank you, Dr. Baum, but please tell your people to be careful. The galaxy is watching. Everyone is afraid of what humans might do when their children are threatened. The communication ended. Dr. Baum sat alone in her laboratory, thinking about the storm that was coming. The Vorthak had made the worst mistake possible. They had attacked the one thing humans valued more than their own lives. Somewhere in the cold of space, 23 children sat in cages, not knowing that the most powerful species in the galaxy was coming to save them. They didn't know that their parents were crying and praying for their safe return. They didn't know that ships from every human world were racing through space with one mission, but the Vorthak were about to learn. They were about to discover that some lines should never be crossed. They were about to face the fury of a species that would burn down the galaxy to protect its young. The hunt had begun. Across the galaxy, aliens watched their communication screens with growing fear. The human fleet was massive now. Over 500 ships and still growing. Never before had so many human warships moved together with such purpose. Ambassador Quex of the Trilarian Consortium called an emergency meeting. The Trilarians were a proud species that looked like walking crystals, tall and sharp-edged. They considered themselves the most civilized race in the galaxy. But today Quex's crystal body was dim with worry. Fellow members, Quex spoke to the assembled alien representatives. We face a situation unlike any we have seen before. The humans are mobilizing their entire military force. A representative from the Zephyrian Empire raised one of his forearms. The Zephyrians looked like blue octopi with silver eyes. Surely this is just another border dispute. Humans are always fighting someone. No, Quex said, his crystal voice ringing with concern. This is different. They are hunting the Vorthak who took their children. I have reviewed historical data about human behavior when their young are threatened. The chamber fell silent. Every alien species knew about human children. They were small and helpless for many years. Unlike most alien young who could take care of themselves quickly, this made humans very protective. What does the historical data tell us? Asked the Zephyrian. Quex activated a holographic display. Images of past human conflicts appeared in the air above them. When humans fight for territory or resources, they follow rules. They try to limit damage. They accept surrender. They show mercy. The images change to show battles where human children were threatened. But when their young are in danger, humans become something else entirely. They ignore rules. They refuse surrender. They show no mercy until their children are safe. A small, furry alien from the Corvan Republic squeaked in fear. How many children did the Vorthak take? 23, the chamber erupted in shocked voices. The Corvin representatives' fur stood on end. Only 23? And the humans are sending this massive fleet for so few? That is exactly the point, Quek said sadly. To humans, it doesn't matter if it's 1 child or 1,000. They will respond with everything they have. Meanwhile, on the Vorthak homeworld, High Patriarch Gorth sat in his war chamber reviewing intelligence reports. Gorth was ancient, even by Vorthak standards. His scales were black with age and scars covered his massive body. He had ruled the Vorthak for over 200 years. The reports on his desk were troubling. The human fleet now numbered over 700 ships. Battlecruisers, destroyers, carriers, and support vessels were all heading toward Vorthak space. It was the largest military force the galaxy had seen in centuries. "My lord," said his intelligence chief, a smaller Vorthak named Scrix. "The human fleet composition is unusual." "How so?" "They're not sending just military ships, my lord. Civilian vessels are joining the fleet. Cargo ships, passenger liners, research vessels. Even mining ships are arming themselves and heading toward our territory." Gorth's clawed hand crushed the datapad he was holding. "Civilians are joining their military?" "Yes, my lord, it appears that every human in the galaxy wants to help rescue these children." Gorth stood up, his massive frame towering over his subordinate. In all his years of raiding, he had never seen anything like this. When the Vorthak attacked other species, their governments responded with military force. But their civilians stayed home, safe and uninvolved. Humans were different. Their civilians were arming cargo ships and flying toward danger to help rescue children they didn't even know. "What about their psychological profiles?" Gorth asked. "What do we know about how humans think?" Scrix pulled up another report. "This is where it gets concerning, my lord. Human psychology changes dramatically when their offspring are threatened. Their rational thinking shuts down. They become focused on only one goal: protecting their young. And what does that mean for us? It means they won't negotiate, my lord. They won't accept payment. They won't be satisfied with partial success. They want their children back, alive and unharmed. Nothing else matters to them." Gorth felt a chill run down his spine. The Vorthak had always succeeded because other species were reasonable. They could be bargained with, threatened, or convinced to give up. But humans protecting their children weren't reasonable. On the Vorthak raider ship, the 23 human children sat in their cages. The ship was dark and smelled terrible, but the children were trying to stay brave. Hana had become their unofficial leader. She was the oldest girl and had a calm way of talking that made the others feel better. She sat near Mira, who was still drawing in her notebook despite everything that had happened. "What are you drawing now?" Hana asked softly. Mira showed her the page. It was a picture of her mother, Professor Yoon, working in her laboratory. "I'm remembering good things," Mira said. "My mom always said that when scary things happen, we should remember the good things." June was in the cage next to them with his friend Bin and 4 other boys. He had been listening to the Vorthak guards talking, trying to understand what they were saying. "June," Hana whispered. "What are they talking about?" June pressed closer to the bars. "I think they're scared about something. They keep saying words like fleet and humans and too many." "Scared?" Ben asked. "These aliens are scared?" "I think so. They're talking faster than before and their voices sound different." Mira looked up from her drawing. "My mom taught me some alien languages. Let me listen." She moved closer to the bars and concentrated on the Vorthak voices. Her mother, Professor Yoon, had made her practice alien words as games when she was little. Mira was better at languages than most adults. After a few minutes, Mira's eyes went wide. "They're really scared," she whispered to the others. "They're talking about human ships coming. Lots and lots of human ships, and how many?" Hana asked. "I don't know the exact number, but they keep saying too many to count." Hope filled the children's faces for the first time since they were captured. Their parents and their people were coming to save them. "We need to be ready," Hana said. "When the rescue comes, we need to stay together and do exactly what the rescuers tell us to do." The children nodded. They were scared, but they weren't giving up hope. Meanwhile, in the command center of the human fleet, Captain Lee stood before a massive holographic display showing the positions of all human ships. The display was covered with green dots, each one representing a human vessel, heading toward the same destination. "Sir," Nari reported from her station, "we now have 847 ships in the fleet. More are joining every hour." Captain Lee nodded. He had served in the military for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. Ships from every human colony, every military base, every civilian organization were answering the call. "Any word from the Vorthak?" he asked. "No, sir." "They're maintaining communication silence." "What about other alien species? Are they staying out of our way?" "Mostly, sir. We're getting messages from various governments assuring us that they won't interfere with our mission. They seem afraid of us." Captain Lee understood why. When humans mobilized like this, it meant they were willing to fight anyone who stood between them and their children. Other species recognized the danger and were giving the human fleet a wide path through space. "Sir," Tay called from the engineering station, "I'm detecting something unusual." "What is it?" "Human civilian ships are modifying themselves for combat. Cargo haulers are mounting weapons. Passenger liners are adding armor plating. Even the research vessels are preparing for battle." Captain Lee smiled grimly. This was what made humans different from other species. When their children were in danger, every human became a warrior. Dr. Baum, still at her research station, received another communication from Elder Yith. The Keth Mori looked even more frightened than before. "Dr. Baum," Yith said, his feathers trembling, "the human fleet has passed through our territory. We counted over 900 ships. Did they harm anyone?" "No, but Dr. Baum, we have never seen anything like this. Your ships moved through our space like a storm. They didn't stop, didn't slow down, didn't communicate. They just passed through with terrifying purpose." Dr. Baum checked her own screens. The human fleet was indeed massive now, approaching 1,000 ships. It was probably the largest military force in galactic history. "Elder Yith, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about 23 children. This is about what those children represent." "What do you mean?" "Those children are humanity's future. Every human sees their own child's face when they think about those 23 kids. Every parent imagines their worst nightmare. Every human wants to help bring them home. But surely your leaders will try diplomacy first." Dr. Baum was quiet for a moment. She thought about Admiral Sunja's orders to Captain Lee. Bring the children home alive. Everything else was secondary. "Elder Yith, there will be no diplomacy. The Vorthak have one chance to return those children unharmed. If they don't take it, what happens then? Then the galaxy learns why humans are the most dangerous species in known space when someone threatens our young." As the massive human fleet continued its relentless advance through space, every alien civilization watched and waited. The Vorthak had broken the most sacred rule in human society. They had taken children from their families. Now they would face the consequences. The human fleet arrived at the Vorthak stronghold like a storm made of metal and fire. Over 1,000 ships filled the space around the asteroid base where the Vorthak conducted their slave trade. The sight was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Captain Lee stood on the bridge of his ship, looking at the massive Vorthak station ahead. It was built into a large asteroid, covered with weapons and shields. Smaller Vorthak ships flew around it like angry insects. "Sir," Nari reported from her station, "we're getting signals from the Vorthak station. They want to talk." "Put them through," Captain Lee said. His voice was calm, but everyone on the bridge could feel the anger burning inside him. The communication screen flickered to life. War Chief Thok appeared, his massive form filling the display. Behind him, other Vorthak warriors moved nervously around their command center. "Human fleet," Thok growled, trying to sound brave. "You are in Vorthak space. Leave now or face the consequences." Captain Lee stepped forward. When he spoke, his words were carried to every ship in the human fleet. His voice was quiet, but it carried the rage of an entire species. "I am Captain Lee of the human fleet. You have taken our children. You have 1 hour to return them alive and unharmed. After that, we stop asking nicely." Thok's scarred face twisted into what might have been a smile. "You threaten us? We are Vorthak. We have raided the galaxy for centuries. Your soft species cannot frighten us." 1 hour, Captain Lee repeated. Then he cut the communication. On the Vorthak station, Thok turned to his advisors. Some of them looked worried, but he refused to show weakness. "Prepare our defenses," he ordered. "If the humans want to fight, we will give them one they will never forget." But his intelligence chief, Scrix, stepped forward. "War Chief, perhaps we should consider what?" Thok roared. "Giving in to human demands?"
"We are warriors."
"We do not bow to anyone. War Chief, they have over 1,000 ships. Our entire fleet numbers only 300. Numbers mean nothing. Vorthak ships are stronger. Vorthak warriors are fiercer. Scrix wanted to argue, but he knew better. Thok had ruled through strength and pride for too long to change now. The war chief would rather die fighting than admit the humans were stronger. On the human dreadnought Vengeance, Commander Rowe was preparing his crew for battle. The Vengeance was one of humanity's most powerful warships, designed to fight entire fleets by itself. All stations report ready. Commander, his tactical officer reported. Good. Remember, our priority is rescuing those children. Everything else comes second. Commander Rowe had children of his own back on Earth, 2 daughters and a son. He couldn't imagine the pain their parents must be feeling. Every human in the fleet felt the same way. In the medical bay of the Vengeance, Medical Officer Jin was preparing trauma treatment protocols. She knew the children would need special care after their ordeal. She had treated kidnapping victims before, and she knew how much damage could be done to young minds. Doctor, her assistant asked, do you think the children are still alive? Jin looked up from her preparations. They better be. For the Vorthak's sake, they better be. 45 minutes passed. The human fleet waited in perfect formation, weapons powered but not yet firing. Every human ship was ready to unleash destruction on a scale the galaxy had never seen. 15 minutes before the deadline, War Chief Thok made a decision that would seal his fate. He ordered the execution of a human prisoner, an adult traitor who had been captured months earlier. The execution was broadcast to the human fleet as a show of defiance. The response was immediate. Every human ship in the fleet activated their weapons at the same moment. The space around the Vorthak station lit up with targeting beams and weapon locks. The combined firepower of over 1,000 ships focused on the asteroid base. Captain Lee's voice filled all communication channels, calm and deadly. You had your chance. Now you face the consequences. The battle began. Human ships moved with precision that amazed even their enemies. Each vessel knew its role and executed it perfectly. The massive dreadnoughts led the attack, their heavy weapons smashing through Vorthak shields. Smaller destroyers and frigates flanked the station, cutting off escape routes. Commander Rowe coordinated the assault from the Vengeance. Target their weapon platforms first. We need those children alive. The human attack was unlike anything the Vorthak had ever faced. Other species fought with emotion, making mistakes that could be exploited. But humans fighting for their children fought with cold, calculated fury. Every shot was precise. Every movement had purpose. Vorthak ships tried to fight back, but they were overwhelmed. For every human ship they damaged, 10 more took its place. The asteroid station's shields flickered and failed under the relentless bombardment. War Chief, Scrix shouted over the sound of explosions. Our defenses are failing. We must surrender. Never, Thok roared, even as debris rained down around him. Vorthak, do not surrender. But his warriors were already fleeing. Vorthak ships broke formation and tried to escape, only to find human vessels waiting for them. The humans had surrounded the entire area. There was no escape. Lieutenant Wu led the rescue teams that breached the station. Her team moved through the damaged corridors with one goal: find the children. They had studied the station's layout and knew where prisoners were usually kept. Team 2, check the lower levels, Wu ordered through her communicator. Team 3, secure the upper detention blocks. Remember, we're looking for 23 human children. The Vorthak guards they encountered either fled or surrendered immediately. The sight of human soldiers moving through their station with such determination broke their will to fight. Deep in the station's detention levels, the human children heard the sounds of battle above them. Explosions shook the walls and emergency lights flashed red. What's happening? Bin asked, pressing against the cage bars. Hana listened to the sounds. I think someone's fighting the aliens. Mira had been listening to the Vorthak guards who were running around in panic. The guards are saying something about human ships. Lots of human ships. Are we being rescued? Asked So Young, the little girl who had asked about the crystals back on New Busan. I think so, Hana said, trying to sound confident. I think our people came for us. Suddenly, the detention level fell silent. The Vorthak guards had fled. The children waited in the darkness, hoping and praying. Then they heard new voices. Human voices. Children. Lieutenant Wu called out as her team entered the detention level. We're here to take you home. The children started crying. Not from fear this time, but from joy and relief. They were saved. Their people had come for them, just like Hana had promised. Lieutenant Wu's team quickly opened the cages and began checking each child for injuries. The children were scared and hungry, but they were alive and mostly unhealthy. Are you really human? June asked Lieutenant Wu. Yes, we are. And so are the 1,000 ships outside that came to rescue you. 1,000 ships? Mira whispered. All for us? All for you, Lieutenant Wu confirmed. Every human in the galaxy wanted to help bring you home. As the rescue teams evacuated the children, the battle outside was ending. The Vorthak station was badly damaged, and most of their ships were destroyed or surrendering. War Chief Thok was dead, killed when his command center collapsed, but the humans weren't satisfied with just winning the battle. Captain Lee sent a message to every Vorthak ship and base in the sector. This is Captain Lee of the human fleet. The Vorthak who took our children are defeated. But this is not over. Any Vorthak who harms human children in the future will face the same fate. We will hunt you across the galaxy if necessary. The message was broadcast on all frequencies so that every species could hear it. The humans wanted everyone to understand. Human children were protected by the most powerful military force in the galaxy. On the medical ship Hope, Dr. Jin examined each of the rescued children. They were physically unharmed, but emotionally traumatized. It would take time for them to heal from their ordeal. How are they, Doctor? Captain Lee asked when he visited the medical bay. They're brave kids, Dr. Jin replied. Scared, but brave. They took care of each other while they were prisoners. That probably saved them from worse trauma. Captain Lee looked at the children resting in the medical beds. Some were sleeping. Others were talking quietly with the medical staff. Hana was helping comfort some of the younger children, still being a leader even after everything she had been through. They're going home, Captain Lee said quietly. Yes, sir. Their families are waiting for them. As the human fleet prepared to leave the Vorthak system, other alien species watched in amazement. The humans had mobilized their entire military force to rescue 23 children. They had destroyed one of the galaxy's most feared raider groups, and they had done it all to bring their young ones home. The message was clear to everyone in the galaxy. Humans would do anything to protect their children. Any species that threatened human young would face consequences beyond imagination. The age of Vorthak raiding was over. The galaxy had learned a new rule, written in fire and steel across the stars. Never, ever touch human children. The rescue was complete, but the real message was just beginning to spread across the galaxy. Humanity had shown what they were capable of when their most precious treasures were threatened. The medical ship Hope docked at New Busan Colony 3 days after the rescue. Crowds of people waited at the spaceport, holding flowers and signs. Parents who had not slept for days stood with tears in their eyes waiting to hold their children again. Hana was the first child to walk down the ship's ramp. Her parents ran toward her, calling her name. When they reached her, all three of them fell to their knees, holding each other and crying. I knew you would come, Hana whispered to her mother. I told the other kids that our people would save us. One by one, each child was reunited with their families. June hugged his father, a former soldier who had tears streaming down his face. Mira ran to Professor Yoon, who had flown from Earth the moment she heard about the kidnapping. My brave girl, Professor Yoon said, holding her daughter tight. You were so smart to listen to what the aliens were saying. That helped the rescue teams find you faster. Teacher Kyung-soo was there too, his head still bandaged from the Vorthak attack. He watched his students return home and felt proud of how brave they had been. They took care of each other, he told the parents. Even in that terrible place, they stayed strong and helped each other. These children are heroes. The colony's medical center examined each child carefully. Physically, they were fine. The Vorthak had kept them alive and unharmed because healthy children were worth more money. Emotionally, they would need time to heal, but human doctors were experts at helping trauma victims recover. While the children reunited with their families, something much bigger was happening across the galaxy. The human military was not finished with the Vorthak. Fleet Admiral Dong stood on the bridge of the massive battleship Retribution, looking at star charts that showed every known Vorthak base and slave market. The Admiral was a thin woman with gray hair and steel-colored eyes. She had spent 30 years fighting pirates and raiders. But this mission was personal. Status report, she ordered. Admiral, we have located 47 Vorthak installations across the galaxy. Her intelligence officer reported. Slave markets, raider bases, supply stations. All of them are now marked for liberation. Good, begin Operation Freedom. Every human being held by the Vorthak is to be freed. Every alien slave is to be liberated. Leave nothing standing that supports their trade. The Admiral's orders went out to human fleets across the galaxy. What followed was not just revenge, it was the complete dismantling of the Vorthak slave empire. Human ships appeared at every Vorthak base simultaneously. The raiders, already demoralized by the destruction of their main stronghold, offered little resistance. Most surrendered immediately when they saw human warships approaching. At the slave market on Kepler Station, Captain Park led a liberation force that freed over 3,000 prisoners from dozens of different species. The freed slaves could barely believe what was happening. "You came for us?" asked a Zephyrian who had been imprisoned for 2 years. "But we are not your people." "Slavery is wrong, no matter who the victims are," Captain Park replied. "Today everyone goes home free." The systematic liberation of Vorthak territories sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Other species watched in amazement as humans freed not just their own people, but aliens from every corner of known space. But the humans were not finished yet. Diplomatic Corps Director Ara worked with representatives from dozens of alien governments to establish new laws and protections. The director was known for being tough but fair in negotiations. She had helped write the Galactic Peace Accords and the Trade Protection Treaties. The old system failed, she told the assembled alien diplomats. The Vorthak operated freely because no one wanted to take responsibility for stopping them. That ends now. The meeting was held on neutral ground at the Galactic Council Station. Representatives from every major species were present, including some who had secretly done business with the Vorthak in the past. "What do you propose?" asked Ambassador Quex of the Trilarian Consortium. "A new framework for galactic security," Director Ara replied. "Anyone who participates in the slave trade becomes an enemy of all civilized species. Anyone who harms children of any species faces the combined military might of the Galactic Council. And if we refuse to participate in this framework?" asked a representative from the hegemony of cold. Director Ara's smile was cold. "Then you will face humanity alone. We have just demonstrated what happens to those who threaten our children. Do you really want to test what happens to those who threaten children in general?" The threat was clear. Humanity had just mobilized over 1,000 ships to rescue 23 children. They were willing to do the same for any children, anywhere. 3 weeks later, the Galactic Council voted unanimously to establish the Child Protection Protocols. Any species that harmed children would face immediate military intervention. Any organization involved in slavery would be hunted down and destroyed. The vote was not really about protecting children, though that was important. It was about fear. Every alien government understood that humans were now the dominant military power in the galaxy, and they ruled through the protection of the innocent. Meanwhile, back on New Busan Colony, life was slowly returning to normal. The children were attending school again, though they stayed closer to their teacher than before. Counselors helped them deal with their traumatic memories. Hana, June, and Mira had become celebrities across human space. Their faces were on news broadcasts and magazine covers. People called them the Brave 23 and wanted to hear their story. But the children didn't feel like heroes. They felt like normal kids who had been through something terrible and survived because their people came to save them. "Do you think it will happen again?" Mira asked during lunch at school one day. "What?" Hana replied. "Do you think aliens will try to take human children again?" June shook his head. "My dad says no. He says what happened to the Vorthak will be remembered for 1,000 years. No alien will ever want to make humans that angry again." Teacher Kyung-soo overheard the conversation. "Your father is right, June. What happened here changed everything. The galaxy learned that human children are protected by the most powerful force in known space, the love of their parents." 6 months after the rescue, the Galactic Council held a special ceremony. Human Ambassador Kang stood before representatives from every major species in the galaxy. The ambassador was an elderly man who had served in diplomacy for 40 years. He had seen wars start and end, but he had never seen anything like what happened after the Vorthak kidnapping. "Today, we commemorate not just the rescue of 23 human children," Ambassador Kang said to the assembled aliens. "We commemorate the day the galaxy learned that some lines must never be crossed." He paused, looking at each alien representative in turn. "Humanity's children are not prey. They are our future, our hope, our most precious treasure. We will burn down star systems to protect them if necessary. We will face any enemy, overcome any obstacle, sacrifice anything to keep them safe. The chamber was completely silent. Every alien in the room understood that this was not just a speech. It was a promise and a warning. Let this serve as a permanent reminder to all species: choose your actions carefully. The galaxy is watching, and humanity is prepared to act if anyone threatens our. Young Ambassador Kang's words became known as the Children's Declaration. It was broadcast across the galaxy and translated into every known language. The message was simple. Human children were under the protection of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The ceremony ended, but its effects would last forever. The Vorthak slave empire was destroyed. New laws protected children of all species, and every alien government understood that crossing humans meant facing consequences beyond imagination. 1 year after the kidnapping, teacher Kyung-soo took his class on another field trip. This time, they visited the memorial that had been built at the Crystal Formation site. The memorial honored all victims of slavery, but it specifically mentioned the 23 children whose rescue had changed the galaxy. Hana, now 9 years old, read the inscription aloud. In memory of all who suffered under the Vorthak slave trade, and in honor of the love that conquered fear. What does that mean? Asked a new student who had joined the class. Teacher Kyung-min, Hana's father who had taken over the class, smiled at his daughter. It means that when people love something enough, they can overcome any fear to protect it. It means that love is the strongest force in the universe. The children nodded, though some were too young to fully understand. They would learn as they grew older. They would learn that they were protected by something more powerful than weapons or shields. They were protected by the love of their entire species. As the class returned to school that day, Hana looked up at the stars that were becoming visible in the evening sky. Somewhere out there in the vast darkness of space, alien species were living their lives, under new rules written by humans who refused to let their children be hurt. Rules that said the galaxy's most precious treasures, its young ones, would be protected by any means necessary. The universe had learned a lesson that would never be forgotten. Never touch human children. And in the peaceful colony of New Busan, 23 children played and laughed and learned, safe in the knowledge that their entire species would move heaven and earth to keep them safe.